Hi. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and today is going to be movie content. Today we are going to be tier ranking all 120 movies that I watched in 2021. This video was supposed to go out like in January, but it kind of just slipped my mind. I was debating still making it considering it's coming out like late March, early April, but I decided why the hell not, because I did this last year. I really liked doing it. It was really fun. Plus, I never made a video about the movies I watched from October through December, so I thought this would be the perfect time to talk about them. So I have 8 categories here. So the first one is "And the Oscar Goes To." In this category, I am putting my top 10, top 11 movies of the year. I already made a whole video about that, so I'm not going to go into detail with those movies. I just needed somewhere to put them. Next we have nominees. These movies are ranked about 4.5 out of 5 stars, some of them 4 stars. They were the contenders for the top movies of 2021, so they are like the honorable mention of sorts. The next category is would rewatch. I don't know why that red line is there because rewatch is spelled correctly, but these are the ones I gave about 4 out of 5 stars. Then we have scroll through phone, still know what's up. These movies were okay, they were alright. I gave them about 3 out of 5 stars. Then we have these I gave about 2.5 out of 5 stars. Like I didn't necessarily like them, but I didn't necessarily dislike them by any means. Then we have couldn't vibe with it, which are the movies I gave about 2 out of 5 stars. Then we have And the Razzie Goes To. If you don't know what the Razzies are, they're the award show. I don't want to say show, but they're the awards ceremony that's basically the complete opposite of the Oscars. While Oscar awards are for the best of the categories, Razzies are for the worst. And this is where I'm going to put the top 10 worst movies I watched in 2021, which again, I already made a video about those. So I won't really go into great detail about those movies. Again, just like with the best movies, I just needed somewhere to put them. And then the last category is rewatched. All the other 7 categories are gonna be where I put the new to me movies. I don't really want to rank my rewatched movies just because I think that's unfair, because some of these movies I rewatch like every year. And here are all the movies that I watched in 2021. We're going to jump right into it because this is a lot to talk about. Plus, the Oscars are actually on in an hour and 12 minutes, and I really do want to watch this year. So let's just jump right into it. So the first movie I watched in 2021 is American Murder. So this is actually a documentary. It's about the man who killed his entire family and hid their bodies and tried acting like he didn't do it. And it was very, very disturbing. He is a very fucked up man. And it was a good documentary. I think I gave it about 3 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5 stars. So I scrolled through my phone. I was talking to my friend as I was watching it. Scrolled through my phone. I still knew what was happening. Then Anastasia. I actually rewatched this. I was really excited when it was announced it was going on Disney+. I think they've took it off by now. This movie is a heavily fictionalized version about Anastasia, who was the princess of Russia. Once Upon a December, banger. The month of December, her month. Then I rewatched the first Cinderella movie just because I was in the mood for it. I rewatched Cinderella 2, which, you know, I like better than a lot of people seem to. I feel like a lot of people in the Disney fandom pretend this movie doesn't exist. But I actually enjoyed myself watching it, especially the short, because it's not one single plot line. It's like an anthology of just Cinderella doing things. And then my favorite was her stepsister falling in love with the baker. I thought that was really cute. The next movie I watched was Psycho 2, which is the sequel to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. It was made 20 years later, already after Hitchcock died, so he had nothing to do with this film. I reacted to this film, which you could watch up above, and this was actually an okay movie. Like, by default, I feel like, and because of the first is always better, so I do like the original Psycho better. But I thought it was a great sequel that held up. Usually sequel to horror movies are shit, but I thought they did whoever worked on it, I thought they did an incredible job. And it like felt like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Like, it was different enough to know Hitchcock didn't work on it, but it still felt similar. It still had very similar vibes. And actually, I like this more than the documentary, so I'm going to put it before that. Then I watched Over the Moon, which is an animated movie. This is inspired by Chinese culture, and I think the main character's mom died, so she wants to go up to the moon to speak to the moon goddess. It is a musical movie. Philippa Sue plays the moon goddess, did an incredible job, and I thought it was an okay movie. Like, it's a comfort movie. So I'm gonna put it here. But yeah, that movie actually had a lot of bangers, really great music. Philippa Soo is great. The guy who plays, I think his name's Hoyi, that voice, I need a man to sing like that to me every night. Next we have It Chapter 1. I did react to this movie, and I watched it because I read the book in 2020. And I actually had a fun time with this movie. It's not the greatest horror movie I've ever seen. It's like I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. So it could be here or like the lower end of would rewatch. I'm gonna put it here for now and then keep it at the top. Keep it at the top end here. Then I watched Joker, which is the origin story of DC's Joker, and I actually really enjoyed this movie. I remember when it came out and everyone was acting like it was the end of the world. They were saying this is gonna cause like mass murders, that there's gonna be an uprise of crime because of people being inspired by this movie. People always throw fits whenever a villain origin story is announced. I don't really get it. I love villain origin stories. I like knowing why people do bad things. I think it's very interesting psychology, and I do think it's a topic that needs to be spoken about in order to stop future altercations like this. So I actually liked learning the Joker story. I thought it was very clear you're not supposed to root for him. What he's doing is very, very shitty. Again, I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. I guess I should have created another, like, level. I would rewatch it, but it was also just a 3.5 out of 5 star movie for me. So I guess I'll put it there. Next, I rewatched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Very nostalgic. It was a good time. Then I watched Honey, I Blew Up the Kids, which is a sequel. They literally make the baby a giant. I couldn't vibe with it. I thought it was very juvenile. Didn't really have a good time. Fantastic Mr. Fox. I would definitely rewatch. It's a different style of stop motion than I'm used to, but I love the plot. I loved the dry humor. I love the way Wes Anderson frames things. Like, something about his use of symmetry is just so addicting to look at. And I just love animals. I love when animals are at the forefront. I think given the source material and how short and simple that was, and I read the source material before, I like how the characters have more nuance, and I had a great time watching it. It Chapter 2, which I also reacted to. This was okay. I think I do like this one better than the original It, so despite the 3.5 star rating, I would rewatch it. I actually like the ending to the movies better than I do the book. I thought the book's ending was kind of atrocious and just all over the place, and I think the movie wrapped things up nicer. Next is Isle of Dogs. This was okay. I was actually expecting to like this. It's Wes Anderson's other stop motion movie, so I was expecting it to like it better than Fantastic Mr. Fox because I like the idea better. It's about these dogs that are deemed sick, so they have to go live on an island in quarantine, and a little boy wants to get his dog back. But I didn't like it as much. I don't really have a reason as to why. Again, it's the same type of dry humor. The symmetry is great, same type of animation. I just wasn't as intrigued as with Fantastic Mr. Fox, but it was still a good movie all around. Actually, I would re-watch it. But yep, I'm gonna actually put it here because I would rewatch it actually. Next we have 5 centimeters per second, which is a Japanese movie. It's basically about a boy who loved this girl when they were about 13, and as life moves on, he is unable to move on while she is. I couldn't really vibe with this. I thought the pacing was a little jumpy, and it does throw me off that rather than like one whole movie, it is 3 different episodes combined into a movie. I don't know, I just didn't really like it, and I was kind of bored. Then I watched Kubo and the Two Strings, which is a Leica stop motion film. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. It was okay. He basically lets loose an evil spirit, and now he has to find out the secrets to his samurai father. It was okay. It was okay. I'll leave it at that. Raya and the Last Dragon, which was that very controversial Disney movie. I vaguely remember how controversial it was when it came out, and then the whole Lindsay Ellis situation was kind of insane. This movie was okay. I remember really liking it while I was in the theater watching it, but like looking back, I kind of don't remember a lot. So I'll just leave it at okay. I'll put it here. I don't really have a lot of memory towards it. I didn't hate it though, because I know a lot of people kind of despised it. I didn't hate it. Next we have The Book of Life, which is an animated movie about basically the Day of the Dead. This man has to choose between what his family wants versus what he wants. He goes to 3 fantastical worlds, and it's a jukebox musical. And I thought this was a really fun movie. I would definitely rewatch this. I'll put it here. I would definitely rewatch it. It was very, very fun. Twilight! I rewatched all the Twilight movies because I reread the series in 2020. So that's going in rewatched. I rewatched New Moon, so that goes here. Your Name was a rewatch. I first watched it my senior year of college, but then I wanted to watch Weathering with You this year. But I forgot a lot of Your Name, so that's why I rewatched it. Having said that, Weathering with You, I watched that this year, and you know what? This was actually, go up. Why is my computer not going up? This was actually a nominee for one of my best movies of the year. This is about a boy who basically falls in love with a girl that controls the weather, and it's an unofficial sequel to Your Name. You can 100% watch this movie without having seen Your Name. It's just that there's Your Name Easter eggs, and the director has even said they take place in the same universe, so it's just a way to connect the two films. Very beautiful film. I had a great time watching it. It gave me the good feels. I thought it was very clever. The way everything was drawn was amazing. If you do watch Weathering with You, I highly recommend watching Your Name first, so that way you can catch on to the Easter eggs. Then I watched Piglet's Big Movie, which, you know what, was a nominee just because of how cute and feel-good it is. I'm gonna put it there. The Black Cauldron. This is going to, and the Razzie goes to. It was one of the worst movies I watched in 2021. I barely remember anything about it just because that's how disinterested I became within the first 5 minutes. I'm not going to go into detail because, again, it's mentioned in my worst films of the year, so you can check out that video to know my opinion on that. It was just not a good time, and as someone who used to work for Disney, Disney does not advertise this movie at all. Like, there's no merch, no one ever talks about it. So, like, even Disney doesn't want to acknowledge that this movie exists. Nomadland, this won for Best Picture in 2021. It's about a homeless woman who does become a nomad. She travels the country by car. It's basically a slice of life movie as she goes around talking to other nomads and learning about their lives. And usually I'm not a fan of movies like this, but I actually fairly enjoyed this one. I gave it about 3 stars, 3.5 stars. I was kind of shocked by how much I enjoyed it, because usually I don't. So I will put it here. The Twilight Saga Eclipse. I rewatched that. The Trial of the Chicago 7, which is based on a true story. It's about a group of people who protested against the Vietnam War here in Chicago, but there was a violent altercation with the police, and now all these people who basically ran the protests are up for trial. It's directed by Aaron Sorkin, who I understand can be really weird with his films, and some of the dialogue is very theatrical. It doesn't feel like it's based on a true story at times, but I was still vastly interested in this movie and thought it was a good movie. I watched this with my father, who was in the Air Force. He was in the Air National Guard during the Vietnam War. We do have different opinions when it comes to the Vietnam War, so at the end of it, it was kind of awkward just sitting there because we both made a point to not look at each other. And then even my dad said, you know, I have some mixed emotions about this film, which I think is a valid opinion to have, because I feel like when it comes to, like, this is arguably a war film when it took place and what these characters stood for. I think it's okay to have mixed emotions about war stuff. So I wouldn't say this was a nominee. I only gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Actually, no, I would say it was a nominee because it was just vastly very interesting and entertaining. Then I rewatched Shrek. I rewatched Shrek 2. I rewatched Super 8 for the first time since it came out. This is basically about aliens coming to a town in the 80s, I think it was. I liked this a lot better when I was a kid than during this rewatch. It is kind of forgettable. Like, even though I recently rewatched it, I already forgot what I saw. Knobs and Broomsticks, which is about a witch that visits are they orphans or just 3 kids in a war? I don't remember. They were very obviously trying to piggyback off Mary Poppins' success. It was okay. Like, I didn't hate it. It was just okay. So, I'll put it here. Then I watched Big, which is a movie about a boy who wishes he was older, and one day he does get older. He is an adult, played by Tom Hanks. People find this movie endearing. I found it very cringy. It was funny at times, and I cringed a lot, and like not in a good way, like, oh, that's supposed to be the humor, just in a way I didn't really enjoy. It also wasn't bad. So, I rewatched Breaking Dawn Part 1. Then I watched The Rescuers for the first time, which is a Disney movie about those mice rescuing a little girl. It's not one of Disney's best. Then I rewatched Monsters, Inc. Then we had my first Oscar-winning movie, which is Demon Slayer Mugen Train. This movie is a continuation of the anime. You do need to watch season 1 of the anime to understand this movie, but the anime is about a boy living in 1910s Japan. His sister was turned into a demon, so the rest of the story is him trying to turn his sister back into a human, and he becomes a demon slayer in order to do that. I made a whole video about my best movies of 2021, so I don't want to get into too much detail. But it's a fun story. Like, it's not, like, the best. It's not some, like, complicated plot with plot twists at every turns. But it's a good story that anyone can easily follow. I love the characters. I find the characters to be incredibly wholesome. The fight scenes are intense. And the animation's, like, fucking insane. It's quite insane. I rewatched Breaking Dawn Part 2. Then I watched the Da Vinci Code, which I did react to. So, I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I would rewatch it. Actually, you know what? I would rewatch it. I would rewatch it on a rainy day where I'm just looking for a good mystery. I decided in 2021 I would watch all the Studio Ghibli movies. The first one I watch is Nausicaa, which is kind of debatable. Some people consider it Studio Ghibli, some don't, but it's definitely one of Hayao Miyazaki's first. It's a sci-fi, which I'm not a huge fan of. And admittedly, I'm of the minority here who doesn't think it's the best. A lot of people typically give it 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5. I gave it 2.5 out of 5. My biggest gripe is that I was just bored. I rewatched Holes. Then I watched Arlo the Alligator Boy, which is like just a fun kids movie. It's about a boy who's half alligator going to New York to find his dad. And it was okay. It was a fun movie. Put it right there. Cruella. I had a lot of fun with Cruella. Again, it's a villain origin story. People threw a fucking fit when this was announced. I mean, granted, who asked for this? No one. But, like, once I finally sat down and watched it, did I have a great time? Yeah. Like, there's some gripes I had with it. Like, it definitely could have been shorter. The camera work could have been better. Emma Stone's accent could have been better. The CGI dogs could have been better. But as a whole, I thought it was a fun revenge story. It's not like Joker, where you could sympathize with him before he turned into a villain. Cruella was always kind of a bad person. And what made the movie so fun is that she didn't really feel guilt about it. Like, she knew it and owned it and had fun with it. So therefore, I had fun with it. I had no problem with the fact that I couldn't sympathize with her. Sometimes unsympathetic characters are really enthralling to watch, Cruella being one of them. The most shocking thing is that the movie wasn't even about the dogs. Like, there was like an actual solid villain. The fashion in this movie was immaculate. The soundtrack the whole thing was a banger. Absolutely banger soundtrack. Love to see it. And you know what? I would rewatch it on like a family night. It was a fun movie. Alright, then I rewatched Castle in the Sky to continue my Studio Ghibli adventures. Then I watched The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. I couldn't vibe with this film. I didn't think it was scary in the slightest. I was very disappointed in it. Someone else took it over. Like, it wasn't James Wan. And James Wan just had a certain style with the first 2 Conjuring movies that this guy couldn't capture. He focused more on, like, the emotional impact than just scaring you. But that's not why I'm watching the Conjuring movies. Like, I want to be scared. I don't want to be emotional. And even then, the emotional impact wasn't good. It wasn't well written at all. Just didn't like it. Luca, which takes place in Italy. It's one of Disney Pixar's newest movies. It's about a boy who's regular as sea monster, but when he goes on land, he turns human. And it's basically a coming-of-age story between 3 friends, and this was one of the best movies I watched in 2021. Then, as much as I didn't want to rewatch this movie, I had to in order to continue my Studio Ghibli adventures. That is Grave of the Fireflies. It is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I just don't want to watch it again. It's so heart-wrenching. If you don't know what it's about 2 siblings living in war-torn Japan during World War II. They are left parentless, so you're watching a 14-year-old boy trying to take care of his 3-year-old sister. Decisions are made. Whether or not you agree with his decisions, he faces those consequences. Some of them aren't so bad, some of them make you want to cry. This movie does not have a happy ending, so fair warning. If you want to watch this movie, be warned, because it's sad. It is one of the saddest movies you will ever see, and people do often describe this movie as the best movie they never want to watch again. And because I was so sad, I needed something happy, so I rewatched The Proposal. It's my favorite rom-com. I watched A Whisker Away, which is about a girl who could turn into a cat. I did not like our main character. I thought she was really annoying. I just thought the movie wasn't well made. Like, there was this whole, like, cat universe that I think they could have played off on, but they didn't really introduce it until the movie was already more than halfway over. And I thought it was wasted potential, so couldn't really vibe with this. Next is Fireworks, which I thought was an movie. It was just a romance between two teenagers. I like it more than the people on Letterboxd seem to. The people on Letterboxd seem to despise it. But I thought it was okay. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. Like, it was cute. I'll put it here. Like, it was cute. But I wouldn't rewatch it. Next is the Song of Bernadette, which is allegedly a true story of a woman who saw the spirit of the Virgin Mary. I've mentioned a few times on this channel, I have a very, very hard time with Jesus stories that are based on a true story, just because I think Hollywood changes so many things to fit a certain narrative, which I feel like is a disservice to the true story. But I'm not in Hollywood. Nobody asked for my opinion. I didn't like this movie at all. Not enough to make it to the Razzies, but I had a very hard time with it. One, the topic. Two, I just thought the main woman's acting was atrocious, and somehow I think she was actually nominated for Best Actress for this film, and I don't get it. I thought her acting was atrocious. Next, I watched My Neighbor Totoro, which is one of the best movies I watched in 2021. It's no plot, just vibes. It's about two girls who meet this forest spirit named Totoro. It's purposely very, very happy because it premiered immediately after Grave of the Fireflies, because Studio Ghibli thought Grave of the Fireflies would be too sad. It's a great comfort watch, like, especially when it's raining and you just want to curl up in a blanket and just watch something that doesn't take a lot of thinking. My Neighbor Totoro is the movie for you. I rewatched Kiki's Delivery Service, which is about a witch, and it's a very cute movie. I watched Garden of Words, which I had a very difficult time with. It's about two people coming together, highly hinting at falling in love. The reason I had a very hard time with this movie is because of the age gap. The woman was 27, the man was 15. But also, having said that, I thought they captured the boy's romantic interest really well. Like, I remember what it was like being 15 and like falling in love, having a crush on a teacher. I remember what that was like. Cannot relate to the 27-year-old woman, though. Like, I have no interest in teenagers like she apparently does. But I also think they captured her depression really well. It's just a very conflicting movie for me. Gorgeous animation, but very conflicting, so I'm going to put it in Only Yesterday, which is a slice of life Studio Ghibli movie. You're just watching a girl growing up, essentially, and it was okay. I fairly enjoyed it. Space Jam, which I reacted to, you can see that up above. It's about Michael Jordan playing basketball with the Looney Tunes characters. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a fun movie. I do think I missed the window. If I was younger, I would have liked it better. But I was very impressed with the mixture of animation with live action, especially given the time this came out. I think it's a Warner Bros. Movie. I think they did a fantastic job. And you know, it's a solid film. 3 out of 5 for me. Then I watched Zathura, which is one of the worst movies I watched in 2021. It deserves a Razzie. I just didn't like the acting, and I thought the kids were absolutely fucking annoying. Knives Out, which is a murder mystery. This is one of the best movies I watched this year. I'm gonna put it here. I was constantly on my toes, and the plot twist after plot twist. Like, I wish I was that smart, as smart as Rian Johnson to be writing something like that. Porco Rosso, which is another Studio Ghibli movie. It's about a guy who has the head of a pig. It's essentially a love letter to Italy and Italian culture. But I wasn't really a fan. I couldn't really vibe with this. So I'm going to put it in this. Then I watched Ocean Waves, which is one of the worst movies I watched this year. It's kind of slice of life-y. Like, in order to enjoy that movie, you do really need to like the characters. I didn't like them. I thought the girl was annoying. The guy was bland. I didn't get it. No, it's actually one of the top 3 worst movies I watched in 2021. Then I watched Pom Poko, which is about shape-shifting raccoons. Again, it's a Studio Ghibli film. This is actually one of the best movies I watched this year. Violet Evergarden, the one with the really long title, so the first movie, not Violet Evergarden, the movie. It's like Demon Slayer. In order to understand it, you do need to watch the anime, which is only 13 episodes in an OVA. It takes place in a fictionalized world that is highly inspired by Europe, and it takes place after a fictionalized version of World War I. Violet Evergarden was a child soldier but now that her major is gone, the major's friend takes her in, and he works for a letter company where people write letters for you, and she wants to become a doll so she can learn what the words I love you means. I love the anime. The anime made me cry my eyes out, but I didn't like this movie as much. Like, it wasn't bad by any means. I did give it 3.5 stars out of 5. But I was expecting something more emotional, like, given how the anime is, and I was not expecting it to be like, what one did I just mention? To be like 5 centimeters per second, where rather than like one whole movie, it was 2 different episodes. It was like 2 episodes squished in one movie, and they did connect. They did piggyback off each other, but it was still kind of jarring. So I expected better. Didn't get that, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it by any means. I still do think it was a good movie. Then I watched Children of the Sea, which is about these 2 boys who are raised by manatees, so they can swim and like breathe underwater for a certain amount of time. They befriend this girl, and at first it seemed like a coming of age movie, but then as it went on, the girl had to find out this secret to the boys, and it was okay, I don't, like I said in my best movies of the year video, that last half, the last 30 minutes of the movie, to this day, I still have no idea what the hell was happening, but I was just so highly enthralled that I just have to give it my imaginary Oscar. It was so fascinating. I don't want to use the word fun. Like, it was fascinating to watch. I still don't know what was going on, but I couldn't look away from the screen, so that has to be something, right? Next, I watched Studio Ghibli's Whisper of the Heart, which is about a girl that falls in love with a boy. And it, like, within this movie, you can kind of see her fan fiction of this cat statue. And it was just cute. Like, I don't have really anything too critical to say about it. I just had a good time with how cute it was. And it's this I would actually consider a nominee for Best Movie of the Year. Then I watched On Your Mark by Studio Ghibli, which is actually from a music video. It was okay, I guess. It's just a music video. But then I watched Princess Mononoke, which is about a guy, a prince, who wants to save his hometown after he got poisoned, so he leaves. And then he wants to help San save the forest, and it's a beautiful story of nature and how humans are garbage, but also there is no particularly bad person, there's no particularly good person, because even the creatures of the forest have their bad apples, and like the main antagonist, she's arguably a somewhat good person, because even though she treats the forest like shit, she protects her people very well. And San and Ashitaka are just a great couple, great canon couple, and I don't know why more people don't talk about them. Everyone wants to argue about ships, but no one mentions them, and I love them with my whole heart. That whole scene, I knew it was meant to be when San held a sword to Ashitaka's neck, and he called her beautiful. That is the love I want to see. Everything else can go home, because romance is not going to peak after. Romance peaked with this movie. You will not be able to beat it afterwards. Romance writers, go home. It's the best movie I watched in 2021. Then I watched The Martian, which I did react to. This was just okay, but it was on the better side of okay, so I will put that here. Then there's Reminiscence, which takes place in a post-war, post-apocalyptic world. There was no reason I needed to have that setting. The romance was garbage. There's no chemistry, just 1D characters. I don't even think Hugh Jackman had a good time with this movie, and it was one of the worst movies I watched in 2021. It deserves a Razzie. I rewatched Les Miserables. It was my birthday. I unfortunately had to work on my birthday, so I celebrated by going home, eating Chinese food, and watching Les Mis, because it's my favorite musical of all time. Then I watched the Fear Street movies. I was not expecting these movies to be as good as they were. I kind of expected them to be shitty Netflix movies. I had a great time with the first one. I would definitely rewatch it. I would definitely rewatch it like every Halloween. It's basically about this town where nothing but bad things happen to it, and it lives next to a town where nothing but good things happen to it. Every so often there is a mass murderer, and they think it's the curse of this girl who lived during like the Salem witch trial days. Not in Salem, but just during around that time. And these group of teenagers are trying to get to the bottom of it. I had a good time with the first movie. The second movie was good too. I'm of the unpopular opinion the first movie's not the best one. Not the first movie, the second one. Everyone thinks the second one's the best. I don't. I think it's actually the worst of the 3, but it's not bad by any means. Like, look where I'm putting it. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then the next one is Fear Street 1666. So just to give an idea, what are the years? There's Fear Street 1994, Obviously, it obviously takes place in the 90s. There's Fear Street 1978, which is like a flashback movie of sorts. It takes place in the 70s at a summer camp. Then there's Fear Street 1666, which is the origin story of this girl that caused this curse. I didn't like it as much as the first. I did like it better than the second. I gave 1666 3.5 stars. They're just really fun movies. I do highly recommend them. When you go into them, don't expect them to be some like James Wan or Mike Flanagan style horror movies. Nothing Alfred Hitchcock style. Just fun teen slashers in the sense. Then I watched My Neighbor the Yamadas, which is by the same guy who did Pompoko and Grave of the Fireflies. It's about a family, and you're watching, it's like an episodic type of movie. There's several episodes within one movie. It was cute at first, then it got extremely boring, and I just couldn't vibe with it anymore. Then I watched Joseph, King of Dreams, which is based off the biblical story of Joseph in the Bible, he dreams things and they come to life. So he dreams the future. It was one of the worst movies I watched in 2021. I didn't like the animation style. I didn't like the music. I didn't like the characters. Whoever told me I would be a fan of this movie since I'm a fan of Prince of Egypt is a bold-faced liar. I don't trust you anymore. It was just a garbage movie. It's one of those bad movies I would have had to watch in my CCD classes. I rewatched Spirited Away, which is also a classic, and it's an Oscar-winning movie. We're going to talk about the Oscars since they're on in a little over 15 minutes. Then I watched Conjuring 2, which I thought would have been a rewatch, but then I actually, played the movie, and 5 minutes into it, I realized I had never seen it before. And it is actually one of the best movies I watched in 2021. It's a scary movie. Usually scary movies don't really scare me anymore because they're kind of crap, but this one genuinely scared me. James Wan just has a way of holding your emotions in a chokehold. Then I watched the 1920s version of The Phantom of the Opera, so the silent film. I did react to that. You can watch that up above. And it was an okay movie. I did enjoy it. I don't know if I would rewatch it, but I thought it was a solid movie, especially given the time, how it's a silent film, and, we're not used to silent films anymore. But it was a good time. I'll put it here. Then I watched The Cat Returns, which is like an unofficial sequel to Whispers of the Heart. It was okay. I wasn't that big of a fan. I don't know. I did like it better than some of these movies, so I will put it here. Then I watched Annabelle Creation, which is the sequel to Annabelle, and it's in the Conjuring universe, but it's the origin story of Annabelle. Annabelle I thought was an okay movie. I didn't hate it as much as other people seem to. But I think Annabelle Creation was better. It was a solid horror film. So, and we're actually getting to the movies that I did not make videos about. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. But I actually, I actually would rewatch this. So I'll put it here. Then I watched a movie called Voces, which is Spanish for voices. The English title is Don't Look Up. And it's about a boy who sees ghosts. Haunted house. Very, very typical movie. Didn't necessarily bring anything new to the table, but I was kind of surprised by the tone of the movie. It was a very, I don't want to say spooky, I don't want to say scary, it was eerie. There's a very eerie setting and tone to this film, and they kept it all throughout, which I think is what made this movie as creepy as it is, despite being a plot I've seen before. Usually movies just aren't eerie. Their goal is to scare you and have jump scare after jump scare. This film didn't have that. It's almost creepy to talk about it because of how eerie it was. I know I keep reusing that word, but I just thought it was an excellent usage of that. So I'm going to put it up here, scroll through phone, still know what's up. I rewatched Scary Godmother. This movie's kind of garbage. Oh my god, I loved it as a kid, but now, holy shit. But then I rewatched Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, which is when cinema peaked. No Scooby-Doo movie has ever beaten that movie. It's the best Scooby-Doo movie of all time. It's terror time again.
You hear the beating of your heart, you know the screaming's gonna start. Here comes the really scary part, 'cause it's terror time again.
Then I watched the 1930s version of Dracula, which I also reacted to. This is an movie. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's at the higher end of 2.5 and then the lower end of 3. So I'm gonna put it there, and I'm gonna keep it at the top. I don't know why I'm pointing to my screen as if you guys can see it. Here's my mouse. I'm gonna keep it here. Then I watched The Nun, which is in the Conjuring universe. She was introduced in Conjuring 2. It's about a nun that's actually a demon that just manifests itself as a nun. And again, people told me it was scary. Y'all are bold-faced liars because it was garbage. It was not scary. It was kind of boring. It's one of the worst movies I watched in 2021. Then I watched Howl's Moving Castle, which is basically about just this needy, attention-seeking, dramatic magician of sorts. A wizard, not a magician. He was more of a wizard. Christian Bale, the way he speaks in that movie.
That's my girl.
I need a man to speak to me like that every night. And you know, it was just, it's one of those movies I have nothing critical to say. It was just good vibes. I had a good time all around. And it's one of the top 3 movies I watched in 2021. Oh my god, the Oscars start in 12 minutes. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Then I watched The Curse of La Llorona. But yes, it was one of the worst movies I watched in 2021. Even, I hated it more than I hated The Nun. Promising beginning, and it just got worse as the movie went on, and then there's that very pathetic attempt to connect it to the Conjuring universe. Garbage. And it's so upsetting, because I think, like, I just think the topic, or the subject of La Llorona is such an interesting one, and they threw it all away. I rewatched Halloween Town, which was a good time. Then I rewatched Midsummer, which is one of the best movies I watched in 2021. I love cult movies. I love anything to do with cults. And I went into depth about this in the other video, but I think one of the most interesting things about this movie is that when it first came out, everyone was calling it the girl boss movie. I don't think she was a girl boss at the end. I think she left one abusive relationship for another. And this movie did such a good job depicting cults that even the audience fell for it. I think that's amazing writing. Then I watched Annabelle Comes Home, which is the 3rd movie in the Annabelle specific universe. What a weird movie. It's about what are their names? What are their names in the movie? Oh my god, I forgot. The Conjuring couple. It's about their kid, basically. They're on some vacation and their kid needs to stay home with a babysitter. Annabelle is locked away in the room, but then the babysitter invites a friend over. You know, there's a sign telling the friend not to go into the room with the scary knickknacks, but then the friend was like,
"That sign can't stop me because I can't read."
So this movie's definitely one of those movies where things happen because the character made a very stupid choice, and I understand for a lot of horror movies, characters need to make those stupid choices in order to get the plot going, but this one was just so avoidable. It was hard to take seriously. It was more of a comedy to me, like a black comedy than a horror movie. I still had, despite how bad it was, I still had fun with it, so this is more of an movie. I rewatched Nightmare Before Christmas. It's my favorite movie of all time. I rewatched Corpse Bride. I watched Trick or Treat for the first time, which is an anthology film, but all those stories do come together. And I thought it was very cleverly done. I didn't like it as much as I hoped I would. Like, I would rewatch it, but at the same time, I don't know. So I'm gonna keep it here. Before I Wake, which is about a couple who recently lost a baby, so they adopt a young boy, but he sees things in his dreams. It's a Mike Flanagan film. I think it's my first official film that I've seen by Mike Flanagan. Usually I see his TV shows. And it wasn't particularly good. I wasn't as scared as I hoped as I wanted to be, because he can make some pretty scary shit. One of the things he's known for is making things so dark you can't see what's happening, and I hate when he does that. That happens a lot in this film. I thought the little boy was annoying, the voice he used. And I'm thinking I'm watching a 5-year-old, but no, like, you later find out he's 8, and I was like, oh my god. This wasn't a particularly good movie, but I'm also saying that knowing damn well the ending made me cry. Because Mike Flanagan just has a chokehold on me, and he can't keep making these scary movies and then making me cry at the end of it, and he can't keep getting away with it year after year, project after project. But he is. It's not that I necessarily couldn't vibe with this. It's an movie. I'll put it here. Right here. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. I rewatched Frankenweenie, which is very cute. I watched The Innocents for the first time this year, which is based on The Turn of the Screw. And you know what? While watching the movie, I didn't like it. I was bored and I was really annoyed with the characters. But then I read up on the movie, and I'm realizing one of the reasons I didn't have a good watching experience was because I had already seen The Haunting of Bly Manor, where everything is pretty explicit. Like, Mike Flanagan doesn't necessarily leave room for any ambiguity. But The Innocents, the whole point of it was the ambiguity. The director didn't want you to know the truth. So it's not like The Haunting of Bly Manor where you know for sure those kids are possessed by the ghost. In this movie, you're actually not supposed to be sure. You're not supposed to know if it's real or if it's all in the main character's head. And now that I've read up on the movie, despite my actual watching experience, now that I read up on the movie and I understand what the director was truly going for, this is a solid film. I would consider this a 4 out of 5 star film. I would rewatch it. I do want to, now that I know all that information, I do want to rewatch it like with a different headspace, with a different idea going into it, because I think a second viewing I would like it a lot more. And I also just learned Oh Willow Whaley was actually written for this movie. So my advice though, if you have already seen The Haunting of Bly Manor and if you have already read the book Turning of the Screw, you do need to change your mindset a bit going into this movie because it's not going to be explicit. Things aren't going to be answered for you. At the end of the movie, you are going to have a lot of questions. I watched Violet Evergarden, the movie, where unlike the other movie, this was one of the best movies that I watched in 2021. I cried. It's exactly what I was looking for after watching the anime. Bawled my eyes out. And gorgeous animation. Then I watched Tales from Earthsea, which the plot was so discombobulated. It was one of the worst movies I watched this year. So I'm giving it a Razzie. Ponyo! Not getting a Razzie, because this movie was cute. This is a nominee for one of the best movies I watched this year. It's about a goldfish that turns into a human and becomes friends with a 5-year-old boy. And it was one of the cutest movies I've ever seen. And it should be a crime for a movie to be that cute. Then I watched An Alien Christmas, which is a stop motion movie. It's about 30 minutes long and it's just about these aliens. They don't like doing good things, but this one particular alien has a change of heart and wants to give out gifts. It's very corny and cheesy. It's not self-aware in the slightest, but it's also one of the cutest movies I've ever seen. I think it was kind of endearing. I think I'm out of the target audience for this age-wise, but I thought it was incredibly endearing and just really cute. Like the noises they made, the storytelling of it all. Like I just felt like I was a 5-year-old watching like a cute little Christmas commercial, you know? I had a good time. I would actually rewatch this. It's definitely on the lower end of rewatching, but I would rewatch it. I feel giddy just thinking about it. It was so cute. And again, if you like, some of the best corny movies are the self-aware ones. This is not self-aware in the slightest, so please know that going into it. But it's cute, and I stand by that. That is a hill I will die on. Then I watched The Holiday Calendar, which is a Hallmark-esque Netflix movie about an advent calendar. It's the worst movie I watched in 2021. I gave it 0.5 out of 5 stars, and I went on a very lengthy rant about how bad it was in the other video, so go give that a watch. Just know that not even nepotism could save Gregory Peck's grandson, grandnephew, whatever he was. Then I watched The Secret World of Arietti, which is about a very small girl living in the walls of a regular-sized person's house, and they're trying to save her home. It was okay. I had fun with it. So, I'll leave it up here. Encanto. I had a great time with this movie. I saw this one in theaters. I would actually rewatch this, so I'm gonna put it, let's see, I'll put it here. It's a great family movie, and I love the exploration of generational trauma. The music slaps, like Surface Pressure and We Don't Talk About Bruno. I know I'm of the popular opinion that they're bangers, but absolute bangers. The animation was also gorgeous to look at, and I liked how, because I went into it with like a certain prediction of the main character. I'm like, she's either gonna get powers by the end of the movie, or she's gonna learn that she's perfect the way she is. And I liked, by the end of the movie, it wasn't her that needed a lesson. It was everyone else. Like, there's some lessons she needed, but it was everyone else who needed those lessons. And I thought that was such an interesting and great twist to it all. I rewatched Uncle Buck. I don't know what it is with this movie, but I love rewatching it around Thanksgiving. Then I watched From Up on Poppy Hill, which is about a group of kids trying to save this historic building for their high school. I thought it was okay, but not even like a good okay. It was that's all I gotta say about it. I didn't just vastly enjoy myself watching it. I thought it was a little on the boring side. Next is The Wind Rises, which is the true story of a Japanese plane designer, plane architect, I guess, airplane architect. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a little too long. It's Hayao Miyazaki's last movie that he made. I I wasn't too invested though. I did think it was a little too long and a little too boring for my taste. Next is, how do I pronounce this name? Next is The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, which is actually a Japanese folk tale, Japanese legend. And it's about a girl who was born from a stalk of a bamboo. She's essentially a goddess, and it's just her story from there. And it's one of the most tragically beautiful stories I've ever seen. It's by the same guy who did Grave of the Fireflies, and he did a magnificent job. I don't know if I want to rewatch this movie because it was very depressing. So I'll put it on the lower end of this because something about it was just so tragically beautiful. It was enchanting. Like the main character was just she was just so sweet and so wholesome, and I just felt so bad for her, and the outcome was just so, it was a knife to the heart, the outcome of her story, and I wish she had a happier ending. And the animation to this is insane. The charcoal style, I just have nothing but praise for this. It's not one of my favorite Studio Ghibli, but at the same time I have nothing but praise for it. It was just, you definitely need to go into it knowing it's not going to have a happy ending, but it's just, again, just tragically beautiful, or beautifully tragic, however you want that to be phrased. Then I watched oh my god, I've been recording, but I haven't been screen recording. Shit. So I haven't been screen recording, apparently, but let's just do a quick recap. Princess Kaguya is in Would Rewatch. Wind Rises is an movie. Same thing with From Up on Poppy Hill. We're gonna move on because my camera's dying and the Oscar started. When Marnie Was Here, it's about two girls becoming friends. One you kind of think is a ghost. You're not sure. It was okay. I kind of did enjoy it. It is up here. But it's a lot of people. I was expecting it to be a 5 out of 5 star movie with the way people were talking about it. But unfortunately, I didn't get that. But it was okay. And I was not expecting the plot twist. And I don't know if I mean that in a good or bad way. So take that as you will. The Santa Claus 2. I rewatched this. It was an unintentional rewatch, but I rewatched it. West Side Story. I thought this was pretty good. This is the new one. I watched it when it came out in theaters. You know what? I was expecting trash. Usually I'm not a fan of remakes, but I think Steven Spielberg did a great job. And I know, because I know myself too well. I know if he changed things, I would be pissed. But if he made it frame by frame, I would be asking, then what was the point? And he kind of did frame by frame, but at the same time, he did some, like, minor changes. Like, some of the songs were rearranged. There was a lot of Spanish spoken in this movie, which I thought was a great addition, considering, like, the other half of the cast is Puerto Rican, so it was actually nice to hear the Spanish. But the choreography was insane. I thought the singing was beautiful. I would argue everyone was a better singer than in the original movie. I know that's kind of blasphemous, but I would argue that. Ansel Elgort, though, you could tell he does not have the same training as everyone else in this movie. Like, everyone else, you could hear the Broadway training. He sounds like his only practice and training was in the shower. Then I watched Nestor the Long-Eared Donkey. This was a rewatch. It was kind of trashier than I remember. I watched The Star, which is essentially the same plot as Nestor the Long-Eared Donkey. They're both about the donkeys that took Mary and Joseph to the stable. The Star was one of the worst movies I watched this year. I rewatched Arthur's Perfect Christmas, which, you know, was a feel-good movie. I forgot how progressive Arthur was until rewatching this. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think, like, Arthur, I learned so much through Arthur growing up. I was actually emotional watching the series finale this year. But, like, I remember being 5 years old and watching this movie. This movie is the reason I learned what Hanukkah is. It's the movie that taught me about Kwanzaa, and it's the movie that taught me about the winter solstice. Like, I didn't learn those things in school. Like, it was thanks to Arthur's Perfect Christmas. And then some of the things Brain said, I'm like, wow. I'm shocked that's in a kid's movie, especially when this came out. I love Arthur. I think it's a great educational tool. I watched Alla the Other Reindeer. I'm pretty sure this was a rewatch, but it also feels like a fever dream at the same time. I watched Christmas in Connecticut, which was an okay Christmas movie. It was wholesome. It was a feel-good. I watched Arthur Christmas, which is about the son of Santa Claus he's not next in line to take over, but he does have more Christmas spirit than his brother. I had an excellent time with this movie. This is actually nominated for one of the best movies I watched this year. I was completely captivated by this film, and I thought it was great. I thought I wouldn't like it, actually. I'm vastly surprised by how much I enjoyed that movie. It was a very fun movie. It's hard to find a Christmas movie like I like nowadays, because I feel like so many of the ones are coming out. In order to enjoy them, you need to be a kid. Like, there's not a lot of family Christmas movies coming out. I would argue Arthur Christmas is a great movie to watch with the family. Like, I enjoyed it as a 24-year-old, and I'm sure, like, any kid would enjoy it too. I rewatched Jack Frost, which is trashier than I remember. So my camera battery went kaput, and I decided while it was charging, I would just watch the Oscars. I missed the intro because I was about 10 minutes late, but what a show! Petition for Wanda Sykes to host alone, though, because she was the funniest. Out of all the co-hosts, she was the funniest one. Okay, so let's get back to this. I literally only had 6 more movies to talk about before my camera died. My hair is like super messy right now because I was lounging, or I was judging Oscar outfits while I was lounging on my couch, wearing my booty shorts, this ATLA, this Avatar The Last Airbender hoodie, my hair a fucking mess, and I thought I had every right to judge some of those outfits. So these 4 movies at the bottom here, I'm going to go by really quick because I rewatched all of them. Rudolph, classic. Santa Claus is Coming to Town, classic. Polar Express, for the longest time, it was my favorite Christmas movie of all time. It has been docked down to the second favorite because Klaus is now my favorite Christmas movie of all time. I rewatched it this year. I cried. Klaus is such a feel-good movie. It's a newer movie, and I think it got nominated for the Oscars one year. It's a Santa Claus origin story, which I'm always a sucker for, but this one is just so sentimental, and the animation's beautiful. It was actually my favorite movie that I watched last year. That's actually it for my rewatches. These next 2 I did are new to me. So the first one is Earwig and the Witch, which is the newest Studio Ghibli movie. This is made by Hayao Miyazaki's son. It's gotten a lot of negative reviews, and it's really weird because it's not the worst Studio Ghibli movie I've ever seen. Like, I had more fun watching this than I did Tales from Earthsea and Ocean Waves. It's about a little girl who's the daughter of a witch. She lived in an orphanage and gets adopted by another witch. I mean, I've read some of the negative reviews. They've been saying the animation is atrocious. The plot didn't focus on what it should have been focusing on. You would think if it's about witches, they would focus on actual magic, and the fact that these witches were in a band didn't focus on that. And they also said there was like literally no ending. The movie just stopped. And it's weird because I do agree with the negative reviews. And like, it's not a good movie. It's a bad movie. Studio Ghibli has done miles better, and it is hard to believe this is a Studio Ghibli movie. But I had a lot of fun with how bad it was. You know when there's a movie that's just so bad it's good? That's what I think of Earwig and the Witch. I think it's a great, like, kids film. I wouldn't consider it a family film. I think kids would like it as garbage as it is. But I don't know. I actually had fun with how bad it was. I didn't think our main character, Earwig, was as annoying as social media made her out to be. I think she was a little, like, out there. But, like, not annoying. She was just different than other Studio Ghibli protagonists. Not my favorite, but again, I don't hate her. So I will put this, because it's still a bad movie, so I don't want to put it, you know, in my 3 out of 5 star section. So I'll put it at the top of eh. Actually, no, because Dracula still wins here in this category. But 2 out of 5 stars. Like, it's not the worst Studio Ghibli movie in my honest opinion. As much as I agree with the negative reviews, I still had fun with those aspects. So the last movie I watched was The Murder on the Orient Express, which is a movie based off the Agatha Christie book. My family and I watched this on New Year's Eve. I was more invested than my parents. I didn't really enjoy this movie as much as I really wanted to, because I know a lot of people love Agatha Christie. I've never read one of her books, and this is the first ever movie adaptation I've seen of her books. I mean, I don't want to say I couldn't vibe with it, but it wasn't like an movie either. It was a lower higher side of the couldn't vibe. So I will leave it there. But here are the final rankings, and the Oscar goes to has 11 films. We have 6 films in the nominees. We have 12 films in Would Rewatch. We have 25 films in Scroll Through Phone, Still Know What's Up. We have 11 films in We have 8 films in Couldn't Vibe With It. Then we have 10 films in the Razzie Goes To. I rewatched 37 films in 2021. So these are the final rankings. And that is it for this video. This was a fun video to film. I'm not excited for the raw footage because my camera dies usually around the hour 15 mark, so that's a lot of raw footage. I was excited to like sit in this setting again. I haven't sat in this setting in so long. It hasn't been since my last movie reaction, which is about October. Movie reactions are coming. I am just trying to find the time, and they just take so long to edit when I have other things to do in my real life, but they're coming. The first one's going to be the 1960s version of Romeo and Juliet. I promise it is coming probably late April, early May, so just hang tight with me for a second. I'm excited for what 2022 is going to bring. As of filming this, I've already seen 12 films. The next 3 videos you're going to see from me are what I read in April. Sorry, not April. What I read in March, what I watched in March, and then tier ranking of the TV shows I watched in 2021. Then I told myself the next video after that, the 4th in line, has to be a movie reaction because I know some of you have subscribed for my movie reactions and I have not been providing. But I promise, my back is hurting, but I promise they are coming. So that is it for this video. It is 12:16. I need to wake up at 5 in the morning, so I'm going to try piecing out over here. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Without further ado, I'm going to peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao tutti.